we're going to go with the version that we've got at the moment, which is Michaela on Messenger, on Messenger video, so I can have that conversation, and we'll start that in a second. But then the difference with coaching is, although we may be looking at that hidden story in your head, we're actually looking at how that impacts what you do now. And so we're looking to, because what we're looking at is to change the now. And if we change the now, we change the future. And it's sometimes things that are stuck that we don't understand. So let me get to my conversation with Michaela and really sort of explore Michaela's journey. And thank you, Natalie, for all your help. I think we're just going to stick with it this way. So, Michaela, my question to you: what did you understand about coaching before we started the journey? And how has your view developed as we got further into the journey?
So, to be honest, I'd had some counselling as previously, and but that's so different from obviously the coaching. I didn't originally know what to expect. I had obviously dealt with some other stuff previously, hence the counselling. However, I hadn't been able to fully resolve those issues and get to the nitty gritty, if I was to be honest. And so going into this, I didn't know. I knew that I wanted to work on myself. I just didn't know what was wrong. I know that sounds really silly, but there was things going on that I wasn't happy with, and I managed to, through the help of counselling, realise that they were self-destructive behaviours. And I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I've personally been a yo-yo dieter my entire life. Now, the quick fix could be to just go and join another slimming group and lose the weight, but then I'll pile it all back on. And so I wanted it to be a long-lasting issue that I resolve over the years rather than just over the year.
Yeah. So this is about that transformation in the way you think to change the way that you interact with the world. Yeah. One of the things I used to talk about a lot when I was working in SEMH, social emotional mental health, with children, was this idea that we could do quick fixes, we could control their behaviour, but actually what we needed to do was get them to control their behaviour. And essentially what you're saying, Michaela, is very much that. So that's really interesting to know, and I'm curious about your journey and how much you believe, how far you believe you are along this journey in terms of understanding yourself and your interactions.
Okay, so how far am I along in the journey? I'm just touching the iceberg, if I'm honest. There is lots of revelations that I've made, and there are some weeks whereabouts I jump leaps and bounds, and there are other weeks whereabouts I barely move a millimeter. However, it is more about being able to identify my deep down needs and desires that I need, but also the joy is not having, so it's not having an excuse for anything, but it's being able to identify why I'm doing something. It doesn't mean I stop it. It doesn't mean I instantly, oh, that's it, I'm going to stop eating chocolate. But actually, when I had an exceptionally stressful week last week and I found myself at McDonald's 4 times, actually, it was like, I know that the reason why I ended up there was I was there 4 times because I was in a high stress situation, and this is how I deal with it at the moment. And that is, I think, the key is it's at the moment. It doesn't mean that I've identified it, that's it, it's finished. This is what I mean by the tip of the iceberg. I've still got so much more further to go to then learn to resolve that.
And I think this is why you actually jumped in for quite a long contract, didn't you, with me in terms of the agreement, because I think you recognised quite early on that there was a lot you wanted to unpick around your interactions and how you viewed yourself and how you felt others viewed you. And I think
Very,
that is very
very much
clear. It's
so.
that you felt, and we've really unpicked that, haven't we? Talk to
We
me
have.
about how it feels when you're coaching, when you're being coached. What happens when these things come and hit you in terms of those insights that you've had?
Okay, so I won't pretend. It's really bloody uncomfortable at times. I mean, you can really like, how can I get knots in my stomach. I get really tense. I really, really, and there's avenues that I try and stop myself going down. However, I think Jane will definitely agree with upon this. I will answer everything but the questions been asked. I'll go around the houses 3 times, and then, but actually, because I'm trying to avoid it, because I'm trying to potentially protect myself from what the unknown will say. But actually, and I kind of, once I do, it's a revelation, and it still takes time to process. I mean, I'll be brutally honest, we had a really hard hitting session yesterday,
We did.
and if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from it, but I haven't drank. I actually haven't ended up at McDonald's. So these are all great improvements. And actually, I've used other techniques. Like, I won't lie, I've been completely obsessed with reading my book. But I know this is a temporary thing for me to deal with. But moving forward, I know that this is only going to benefit me in the long run. It's only going to benefit my family, everybody around me, and me, more importantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Puts you at the centre. I wonder if you can talk about some of the successes that you've had, because you've talked a lot about some of the revelations and how uncomfortable those are. And I think just being able to describe those physical sensations is something quite new to you as well. But I think there are
Very much
other
so.
real positive steps that you've made, and I wondered if you wanted to explore some of those.
Oh, yes. I mean, so the relationship I've got now with my children has dramatically improved. I mean, I would be kind of exceptionally snappy, exceptionally short with both them and my husband. I mean, and actually, by me kind of breaking down these barriers and everything else, I've been able to kind of build a better relationship with them,
And
but
this was
also
one of your
connect.
goals, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean, I think being a full-time mum and a full-time job and everything else, and society's pressures of from social media, I think that actually I was thinking I wasn't being the best parent on the planet and I didn't have the best relationship, but actually, and I kind of I've it's definitely worked. But I mean, even small things like today. So, um, and I managed to identify the fact of that actually when I'm in a panicked mode, I increase my voice. I'm loud. Because I just want to get it out. It was a huge revelation yesterday, and actually today twice. So less than 24 hours afterwards, I've reduced my volume. I've been able to take a breath. I chose actually earlier on in the year to stop drinking for, I think it was something like 12 weeks or something. I mean, I won't pretend I still enjoy a tipple now, but I am considering doing it again next year. I feel that the coaching has helped me understand the person I want to be more. I'm not saying I'm anywhere near to find out my full happiness, but I do feel that I've had loads and loads of successes around how I live my life and how I interact with people more easily.
That's good. And I've definitely seen those differences in you. You know, you talked right at the start about wanting to be able to improve your relationship with your children, your relationship with your husband, but also your relationship around how your house sat compared to others. You were so obsessed with social media that you really couldn't judge things in that particular way. And one of the other things that's been coming up recently is the masking behaviours that you feel you do, and the way that you believe you need to be as opposed to the way you want to be.
Yeah.
And that has been a really interesting conversation in terms of where some of those really deep learning points have come from that have been incredibly uncomfortable. Now, one of the things I said a few minutes ago was that you're able to now describe to me some of those feelings. What were you doing at the start?
Oh, I could not describe what my body was telling me. I I was like, actually, my beauty therapist, because I do like to go for massages, she actually commented that my back was like hitting the Berlin Wall at one point. It was thick, it was concrete, and it was very tense. And then 6 weeks later, she commented on how much of a difference there was. I was actually more pliable. She found more knots, so it was still painful,
Yeah,
but
she would do.
adding enough. But she could actually work with it rather than actually, and I kind of, rather than just trying to, yeah, I mean, my entire body was just an entire kind of, was just rigid with, and I was riddled with like inner stress, what I I am working on. I mean, I have I'll constantly say this is going to be a long journey. I mean, I won't lie. Just before this live, actually, I went and boosted up the water because I know for a fact I'm going to want a nice hot bubble bath tonight. Just because actually I know that's something I can do to relax my mind, but also, I mean, I'll be brutally honest with the entire group. It wasn't the Friday just gone, but the Friday before, I had a major meltdown.
Yeah, you
I
did.
had failed an examination that I thought was absolutely desperate and vital, and I saw my dreams going. But actually, Jane just helped me so incredibly with getting my breathing under control.
Yes.
And now, the next day, I was resitting that examination, and just so we're clear, due to her intervention, I didn't pass, but I was so much more closer to passing.
And I think that was that thing, wasn't it? That although we've got our regular
Mm.
sessions, there was a real need for us to
Yeah,
hook up on that
yeah,
Friday, because I could see from your messages that were coming in that this was, you were in this argument in your brain, and you'd really managed to sort of, you'd forgotten about the feeling, and you'd gone into that brain. Can you remember what we came up with yesterday for this argument that goes on in your head that's now
oh,
started to developing much more?
yes, and I kind of so um, I'm sure as ladies, and I kind of we all have those negative thoughts. So I won't lie, I do like a bit of good omens. So I've decided to call them and I kind of devil and angel thoughts. So actually, to roll with, like, okay, that's an angel thought. That's me being positive. That's me, yeah. Oh, that's a devil thought. Okay, and I kind of, let's get move on. Let's, and I kind of, but not try and dwell on that, because I don't know about you ladies, but I can get really wrapped up in and overthink, and just my mind will just go over the same point like 20 billion times, and it doesn't benefit me in any way. It just gets me more and more wound up.
And Michaela, I would just say to you at this moment in time that for others who can't see, Michaela's shoulders have just risen at the thought of that
Yeah.
conversation that we had, which
Mm-hmm.
is one of her tells and one of her signs. So talk to me about one of the strategies that we've come up, as well as naming them. You talked there about the idea that you were noticing them, but what were you doing with those thoughts, particularly those negative ones, and what are we trying to help you move away from?
I was, um, I was allowing them, and I was believing them, and I was allowing them to consume so much of my time,
The
and so much
negative
of my
ones you were
energy.
believing. What about the positive
Yes.
ones?
Oh, I was almost discounting them.
Yeah.
I was not, yeah, I just wasn't actually believing the positive ones. I was only believing the negatives. What I'm sure will resonate and kind of with lots of people on this live right now.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And I know we've all been there. We all understand that whole argument in our heads. And what's the strategy that you need to do, as well as naming them devils and angels? What's the key thing that you haven't been doing that we're trying to get you to practice doing instead of being in your head?
Journaling.
There's journaling. The journaling is the activity, but there's also something in
Mm.
your body that we've been trying to get you to consider.
Oh,
And how does that help?
oh, the breathing.
The breathing, and what about your body?
Oh, just realizing that I'm all tense and that actually my shoulders need to come down, but also the whole, um, like I said before, the high pitch on the voice, that actually the urgency, the um, when I'm uncomfortable, just blurting stuff out.
And that was one of your earliest revelations, though, wasn't it, around uncomfortable? And when we were talking,
Mm,
when you talked earlier about alcohol, one of your
mm,
revelations was why, when you're out in
yeah,
parties and things like that, why you use alcohol. Do you want to talk about that a
yeah.
little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, I'll be brutally honest. This is one thing that led to me stop drinking for I think 3, 4 months. Basically, I was at a family social event, and it was the second day on the trot around Christmas time, and I just sat there and I didn't know where to put myself. I didn't know what I was meant to be doing, but the one thing I did know was that I had a drink in my hand. So I was kind of medicating myself with the alcohol to stop myself from feeling so socially awkward. At the end of the day, I'm almost positive that I am going through, and I've got ADHD. So obviously, it's just that lack of social cues that I struggle with, and um, and this was around family friends that have known me my entire life,
Yeah.
and I just realised that I then got really really drunk. Um, it just no, it wasn't the person I wanted to be, and so I have actively decided that actually I need to remove myself from those social situations. I mean, and then kind of, I I really just feel that, and I mean, there's a Christmas party that's been advertised, and part of me really, really wants to go, but also part of me doesn't, because actually I still think that even this far in advance, I'm going to go there. I'm going to feel socially awkward. I'm going to struggle with where I sit, um, all of my emotions around it, that I will end up drinking far too much and just not be the person I want to be.
Well, you see, the thing is, you learnt from that experience last year that that's exactly how I am. And I
Yeah.
know that there are others on this call who shared my anxiety the first year I went to the Christmas party around I don't know what to
Mm.
wear, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to be, and I think you what we're actually saying is you were using alcohol to avoid the stress, And really what I want to bring to your attention, and what we've been trying to bring to your attention over the period of time, is your mechanisms for avoiding feeling.
Yes.
And so this is really the transformational part, isn't it? Because what you've built around yourself is a whole way of coping without feeling.
Yes.
And I just want to say to you that you've got some amazing comments coming in. Naomi has said, thank you for opening up about your experiences, thoughts and feelings, Michaela. Very brave of you. And what I should have said at the start of this conversation is I did check in with Michaela. Is there anything off limits here? Is there anything you don't want me to bring into the conversation? She just said, go for it. And I think you're right. I think she's been incredibly brave in this conversation. But I think that's really powerful. Because I think what this is doing is it's kind of showing you where coaching goes, and it does go into those bits that you really don't want it to go to. It really does, and it makes you uncomfortable. And what our body's reaction to that, what our mind's reaction to that is as Michaela said earlier, it's to try and avoid the question. It's to try and distract. And one of the things I'm very good at when I'm being coached is I come out with stories. So one of the things I look for, as in I have this whole experience that I'll describe and say, do you know what, this is it, and I'm avoiding the question. So that's my coping technique. So one of the things I look for as the coach is I look at where the eyes are. And one of the really important things is I know when it's getting uncomfortable. I know when those feelings are really coming in, and what we've explored and what we've uncovered has really hit home. Because Michaela goes quiet, and Michaela's eyes go anywhere but at me. Now, Michaela is not unusual in that fact. Whenever any of us are dealing with something that's uncomfortable that's come into mind that we need to process, we will look anywhere but at the person who's talking to us. So coaching isn't just about asking questions and talking. Coaching is very much about understanding and shining a light for the person. And I would describe myself as that mirror. But whereas in was it Sleeping Beauty, where the mirror tells us she's not the fairest of them all? I'm literally that mirror that doesn't reflect all the things you want it to say. It reflects all the things that are there that you need to know, and that's important. So a lot of uncomfortable stuff comes out of coaching, but also some amazing stuff comes out of coaching, because you start to see that these fixed patterns that you've been in, the self-sabotage, and some of you have described to me ideas of getting in your own way, and you know, that is so familiar. I'm sure, Michaela, you'd expect, you understand that getting in your own way idea.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I find that I just, so much, I mean, kind of, I would just avoid anything emotionally wise. I mean, we've still got work to do on that.
We have,
but actually, but I mean, I've always, it's just walls I've built up over time that I'm slowly like taking a pickaxe to reveal the person underneath, but also to be accepting of the person I am. And actually, it's going to sound really silly. That's taken a lot to get to that point, because actually, with the masking, I don't know if it's the real me. I mean, am I liking this music because the people I was with at the time liked this music, or is it me that likes the music? And kind of anything like around that I do, it's really trying to home down into like my core of who I am. And I know that actually, and I'm probably going to have to renew after my really long thing, and it might be something that goes on for years and years and years before I get to the full root of it. However, the improvement it has already had, and the positive impact by me going through these uncomfortable situations is phenomenal. I was on a journey to do what I've been doing, and just started this week with my teacher training, etc. But I wouldn't be sitting in such a comfortable position if I hadn't taken this up. And that's not saying I wouldn't have achieved it, but with the help of the coaching, I am sitting more comfortable and I'm pushing myself further to be and strive to be the person I want to be, but also not the person society's telling me to be, but the person I want to be, but also question why I want to be something.
So it's a little bit, to borrow a phrase from another coach that I know, which is about being in your own playground. You really want to discover what that playground is. And obviously you talk there about things about not knowing whether it's what you like or what somebody else likes, that for example, that you do things. But I would just like to remind you in this conversation something we said yesterday, which is human beings are social animals. So we crave acceptance and we crave company. Sometimes we find that difficult, but we crave it. The point is you need absolutely to trust the person. And honestly, I can't think of anyone I trust more than you, Jane. Thank you, Antonia. That's awesome. There's a few people just like you and I that don't like Christmas parties. Antonia says, Christmas parties are ghastly. Fact. And Natalie says that's her as well. So I think essentially some of these things are very much shared experiences. And I think you've been incredibly honest in this journey. Could you tell me who writes the agenda for our conversations? Where does that come from? You. Yeah.
Me.
Absolutely.
Me. Every time. I mean, it's what basically the thing I love is you start it off with, so what do you want to work on today? And actually sometimes it can take half the session to actually figure out what I actually want to work on, i.e. like yesterday.
I was going to say, yesterday you were a little bit resistant, weren't you? Let's say that.
Very much so. And that's at the point where I move millimeters, but then post I move miles.
Yes.
But yeah, I kind of, because some weeks I can go in there and I'll be like, I need to work on this.
Like
this
last week.
This week.
Last week, wasn't
like
it? Yeah. I'd hardly arrived and you're like, bleh.
Yeah, absolutely. But then there are other weeks that literally are, my mind was in 10 billion other places at the end of the day. And it was just, and so what we identified was really deep stuff.
It was.
So actually sometimes going into a coaching session not knowing what you want to work on actually sometimes can be the most revelating ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's that, and I've been in coaching sessions where I've suddenly gone, well, before it I've not had a clue what I want to talk about, and then the minute the conversation starts, it's like blur, and it's like I'm kind of going to myself, where did that come from? I didn't even know that was there, and that's the amazing power behind coaching, isn't it? And as Antonia says, it's about the trust that we build up in a partnership, because coaching is very much a partnership with you at the center of it, in terms of this is about you and working on what you want to do, and we're kind of unpicking. And you're right, those layers, that wall you've built around you is a reinforced wall, and it's huge because that's been your coping mechanism. And those stories that you've created around that, in terms of I need to do and I want to do, are quite robustly hidden inside at times. But you have been an amazing person to coach, because you will go into those deep places. And you will sit with that and you will explore it. And that's amazing. Talk to me a little bit about what's important after a session.
So I think one thing that we've worked on post is actually I do something for me. I have me time. I mean, actually, and I know that it's really quite hard. I mean, trust me, I've just started a full-time course. I've still got 2 weeks of another course left. I have my workload piling up behind me, but actually giving yourself processing time. And I've refound my love for reading.
Yeah.
And so taking yourself off, I mean, that could be a love for music, whatever your passion is whatever your passion is. And I might not recommend shoving your face in a full of KFC or something, but if that's what you like, that's what you like.
A fruit scone with cream and jam, yeah?
That's the one. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is about being able to have time to also reflect upon what happened within the session and how I feel about it afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that processing time is key. I think it's two things. It is that time to reflect, because if you reflect, you're more able to then implement what you want to do. And I say what you want to do because it's not what I tell you to do. It is what we co-create together in terms of what the next steps are. But also it's about processing how it feels and decompressing from what can be quite an intense sort of hour to 90 minutes, can't it? You know, and we do try and leave the conversation on a lighter note just so that you've got that transition a little bit easier. But it is really important. The reflection time is particularly important. And I would say it's also for me. So I never walk straight away from a coaching conversation that I have, because I also need to process. And this is what I mean about coaching being a partnership. It is very much something we do together, but I'm the facilitator and you're the thinker. And is that really how you would experience it?
I would say so. At the end of the day, I find that I find that it's really just so like important that like it just has to work overall.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There are times when you hate me, though, aren't there, Michaela?
Oh, beyond. I mean, I could literally. There can be days afterwards where I could quite easily just send you a nasty name through, and sometimes I just do.
Yeah. Oh, you take it out of me at Overpower.
Oh, absolutely.
Show me how much stronger you are than I am, which you know rattles me.
Absolutely. I will get that one more press up in.
Oh no, I'll do the press ups. It's you're with the overhead push, aren't you? On the
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share? I mean, with the group around your experience of coaching and how you believe, or is there anything else really that you want to share on that idea?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, I have found that actually coaching with you has been so easy. And actually, I mean, we've been able to, weirdly enough, maintain a friendship behind it.
Yep.
But then there is still the professional time and the professional parts to it.
And you have done very well, I think, in separating those two as well. You know, I work hard on that, and I have that as a skill set for myself. But you've done also very well. Going back to that comment about there are times when you hate me, it's done in good jest, because we've hit a raw note, haven't we? You know, we've hit something that's going to hurt when you scratch that itch. You know, it's one of those things.
Absolutely, but I mean, I feel that actually working with you it's only done positives for my life.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, I mean, there are just I trust you implicitly.
Yeah. And trust is a key thing in any partnership like this. And as Antonia pointed out, it is about trust, and it's also about safety. Because if you're going to go to these deep places that you've never been before, or if you're going to uncover things about yourself that you didn't know were there, or you're going to be made to feel when you don't want to feel, because you want to go in your head, not in your body, you know, those things are uncomfortable. You have to trust the person who's taking you on that journey. And it's great that we've got that brilliant bond there to do that. And that's
definitely.
And part of, I mean, what we did when we first set up the partnership was really look at what might get in the way. So we identified some of the things that either of us might do to get in the way of success of the conversations. And that is key, I think, in terms of setting up these partnerships. It's identifying what they're going to look like, and what we're going to bring to the page, and not just bring to the table, not just the things that we're going to bring to the table that are positive, but things we might bring to the table to get in the way of the progress. And then looking at, okay, we've named those, what are we going to do about them? Can I ask the group, is there anything you would like to know further, either from me or from Michaela, around experiences of coaching? Is there anything further that people are interested in finding out? And I'm also curious for myself is whether the description that we've gone through today in terms of what coaching is, and I've used a coaching strategy to do this. So I didn't come with prepared questions other than that first question, because I wanted to listen and respond to what was being said. But how much of this is new experience to you? Is this something that you were expecting coaching to be? Is it something that you feel would be helpful for you? I'd be interested to know what people have taken from this session today, because it's been very different to our normal sessions. So I'd like to hear from you what you've actually taken away from this, what you may have learnt. And while you're thinking about that, I want to put out there an offer that some people already know about, because I have spoken to them off camera, if that makes sense. But I am starting a group coaching program very soon. And the idea of this group coaching program is it makes coaching accessible, because because this is the first group that I'm running as Jane Reason Coaching. It's clearly not the first group I'm running, but it's the first group I'm running in my own business. I'm giving you a huge discount of 60% on the cost of my time. So we're looking at £200 for 6 sessions. 2 of those are one-to-one, one of which is 2 hours, one of which is 1.5 hours. So you're getting 3.5 hours. See, that maths we've been talking about, Michaela, and I can't get it right now. We're talking about 3.5 hours of one-to-one dedicated time just for you, one at the beginning of the course of the group of sessions and one at the end. And we're talking about 4 sessions in the middle where there'll be a group. That group ideally is going to have about 5 people in. It may be a little bit bigger, it may be a little bit smaller. But the benefit of group coaching is that you're not necessarily so exposed, but you can learn from other people's conversations and the way that works, because sometimes listening to somebody else's story, and I'm hoping this is very much what's happened today for some of you, listening to somebody else's story kind of helps you understand where you're at, and there are bits that you relate to that you can take from it and maybe give you a revelation. So this experience that we've shared today, where I've been talking to Michaela, some of the things I've talked about have been a little bit like coaching. That is what group coaching would look a little bit like. And it will be online, unless people want the one-to-ones, if they live locally to me, to be face-to-face, which I can do. But obviously the group is online. So if you're interested in that, please give me a bell. What I'll do is I'll put a link up to some exploratory conversations about that, finding out more about it if people are interested, and that will go up after this session. But just let me know. Nobody's come in with any questions. Nobody's come in with any sort of reflections on this. I would like your reflections on what you've taken from today's session, because I think that's useful for me in terms of feedback, but it's also useful in terms of you would not know where to start with you. Do you know what, Natalie? Nobody ever does. And that's the beauty of coaching. Naomi says, it's been helpful to hear Michaela's experiences with coaching, and I'm ready to start in your group sessions to work on myself. Brilliant. We know that contract's gone to you today. Form returned to you tonight. Fabulous. Thank you, Naomi. And Antonia's in as well. So this is brilliant, isn't it? We've got a group. Do you know what, Natalie? I think it would be really good for you if you could join this group. I really think you'd find it beneficial. And that's not me saying I want your money. This is me saying I think some of the things that you've said in groups before, some of the things that I've heard you say when we've spoken one-to-one, we've known each other a long time. I actually think you'd really benefit from it. And it's a kind of safe way to access it. Michaela had a safe access point to this coaching because it used to happen kind of anyway when she said things on our walks. And some of those walks and runs were very, very long. So there were lots of opportunities. I mean, would you agree, Michaela?
I would. I mean, if I'm honest now, I mean, obviously, I have my contract with Jane, and I'm paying Jane whatever for my own sessions. But the fact that you said you wouldn't know where to start, do you know what? Didn't even know there was anything wrong with me to begin with. As in, and kind of, I struggled to identify basically what I was experiencing, because actually I'd I'd got myself to such the numbness, that actually and kind of, yeah, I didn't have a clue where to start. I mean, because actually there was it was a pretty well enclosed kind of igloo of cement around me, and I kind of, yeah, it takes a while to work, but actually, and I'm kind of, if I'm brutally honest, and I'm kind of, it's worth it. It really is worth it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing is, I tend to ask difficult questions, Natalie. What tends to happen is I ask you something, I don't know, just, tell me, what are the things that challenge you at the moment? That might be a question. And I know for you, there are some things that I'm aware of that you struggle with. And we talk about that. But my favourite question is usually, so how does that behaviour serve you? Which I've asked Michaela several times. Because that's then when we open up this story that our brain is telling us, and we start to go deeper. Now, to answer Naomi's question, do I know any group sessions would have a specific topic? One of the reasons I'm meeting everybody for a 2-hour one-to-one before we do the group sessions is, from that I can develop some idea of where best to go with the 4 sessions. But to be honest, it may well be that there's some common things that we can bring, and I can bring some knowledge to that as well. So we may unpick. I've done some knowledge sessions with Michaela when I've kind of tried to help her understand where some of the behaviours come from. So we might do that. But yet, until I've got the group, and until I've had those one-to-ones, exactly what those 4 sessions are going to be is less clear. But as I said earlier on, in terms of the conversations that I have with people, I don't go to the sessions with Michaela knowing what I'm going to ask her. Because I go to the sessions with Michaela knowing I'm going to listen, I'm going to observe, and I'm going to check my understanding of what she's telling me. That's what I go with. What I do know about the sessions is I will start every session with a way of bringing everybody together. So agreeing as a group where we're going. And there are a set of questions that I ask which will help us hone into what that will be. So no to specific topics, have no idea yet. But yes to, there will be an agreement within the group in each session as to what we look at. What it is a really fabulous way to get the understanding and to unpick whether this is the thing for you, if it's going to work for you. It's a really good way. It's a lower risk in terms of financially, but it's also a lower risk in terms of emotionally. Because as Michaela has so articulately described, when you go deep and you go one-to-one and you go for the journey that Michaela is on, we do go very, very, very deep. But we can do a lot for those of you who've had just 1 session or 2 sessions with me one-to-one, you know that even in those sessions where you have an hour and a half with me, an hour to an hour and a half with me, an awful lot can move forwards. I bet you know what you're going to ask me. Yes, Antonia, I do know that. But do you know what? Part of this purpose of having these conversations with people is also to get to know people. I'm using my teaching skills a lot, because one of the key things as a teacher is to connect and to build that trust and to build those relationships. And in order for you to trust me, that's what I need to do. And that's what this group is about doing as well. It's about building a trusting community where we can all support each other. And we're all on this journey. I wouldn't be a coach if I didn't believe in coaching. Coaching is powerful. I set up an entire trust community. We moved it from being performance reviews and telling people what to do to being developing people through coaching. That was a whole trust, a whole school trust, because I believe the power of coaching is so huge, it can be transformative. And my contract with you, whenever I work with you, is that I will help you, support you to have that contract with yourself, which is transformative for you. And that I can guarantee. If we work together, we get transformation. Anything else from anybody else before I close out this group, this meeting? Brilliant. You're doing it now again. I know you are. Antonia, you do make me giggle, and your story about the spider really made me chuckle this afternoon. It really did. And I'm just going to find a very large spider and hold it up to you in the camera at some point. I think that would work nicely. How do we get the info about joining? I can send it to you, Natalie, or we can, actually what best to do is I'll send you a link to so we can have a conversation, and we'll talk about it then, because that's the best way of doing it. You're right, Naomi. Not only, I think Michaela really needs a huge thank you for agreeing to this. I really am indebted to her. It's been a fabulous thing for her to do, and I do appreciate it. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. Yeah. Natalie, I'll send you that link. And anybody who watches this on replay, if you want that link, it will be in the group. Okay, guys, thank you very much, Michaela. And
thank you.
I'll let you go and implement all of those things we talked about tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm actually looking forward to it, actually.
Brilliant.
Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that is good.
But right,
that is good.
I am going to go because I feel a bath coming on.
I think you need one. I think you deserve one, actually. Some self-care moments. Thank you very much, Michaela.
Absolutely.
Been great for this conversation.
Thank you very much to everyone as well.
And thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.
Bye.